Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. It's the international break and I'm sat here with Turkish, which means we've got a it's not actually behind the numbers. This is a new show, Behind the Camera, where PGMOL officials tell us what they really think about Premier League managers. I probably shouldn't laugh, but it's quite funny.
It's funny because it's crazy, but it's not nuts. Surprising.
Yeah, it's nuts. Look, I've spoken about it, given my thoughts. You spoke about it, I think you addressed it on a show with Curtis, I was watching.
Yeah.
But I wanted to actually delve into this a little bit. And I know, when Arsenal aren't in great form, it's kind of rich sitting here talking about the PGMOL referees. I get it. But we've spoken about this even back when we were sort of, in much better form, spoke about it the last few years. And I remember you on Forever Arsenal saying a while back, this is actually something that fans shouldn't just banter each other about. Just haha, you had a bad decision go, against you or whatever. And it's actually there's legitimate concerns from fans about the standard of officiating. Now, this video that's come out of David Coote from maybe 3-4 years ago, whatever, which I'll get your thoughts on that in a sec, but all that's not a question of standard of officiating. It certainly is when it comes to professionalism and has brought up more questions around the PGMOL. And I just felt we had to sort of chat about it, really.
Yeah, I think I mentioned maybe over a month ago now that fans do need to, forget the whole banter side of things. It's gone a bit too far from that now. I get it once, twice, you can laugh, opposition, wrong decision, you drop points, stop crying, stop moaning, always about the refs. I get all that. We've been through it, rinse, repeat. It's just the same, but essentially there's an underlying problem behind it all that I think because of the banter, because of the need to rip each other online about negative results or your clubs, people choose to ignore, dismiss, and it's that also plays into what it is now, which is an organisation that is never held accountable, never comes out really to explain their actions aside from a mini statement if it is terribly wrong.
Or justify everything they do.
Yeah, and even the repercussions for some of the things that they have come out and said, that was wrong. What, a one game in championship and you're back? And even in that championship game, you make a mistake and you still come back to the top. I forgot, it might have been Taylor. One of the referees last season got dropped to championship, didn't do well in that game, comes back into it just doesn't make sense. But as fans, when the Super League came about, we saw how powerful we can be together because it's a football problem. You mentioned, where we are now and maybe the cheek of it. It doesn't matter where we are. It doesn't matter if it's Arsenal, it doesn't matter if it's Ipswich, it doesn't matter if it's Wolves, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday and so on. It's a football problem that needs to be addressed. Yeah. It's like a cartel making decisions that no one can challenge and it never gets better. And they're going to make more money further down the line because it's only just a recently professional, career for them.
And I wanted to add to that it's not even just officiating isn't very good, let's all come together and do something about it. I mean, that's certainly a part of it. But it's also the experience of VAR for fans. All these kind of added things that have come in, the new rules they've brought in, how strict they want to be about sort of time wasting or second yellow cards for, kicking the ball away. That's something in particular that's affected Arsenal. We are going to talk about the David Coote stuff and everything in more detail, but it's not just, they're not very good, let's complain. I've just got real concerns about the direction they want to take football in. VAR, okay, I was in favour of it, they've tested it. Either the format doesn't work or they're deploying it terribly and it does work, but we need to seriously change the way it works. The fan experience is significantly worsened by VAR. Yeah. They want to bring in semi-automated offsides, but they have to go through months and months of testing, even though we've seen it work for the last season somewhere else. I mean, these are all really valid questions around the PGMOL refereeing technology. You and Kurt are having a great conversation around La Liga and the 8K cameras and the level of analysis. I think it was Elliot, who's on Arsenal Vision podcast, was talking about, made a great point. The clip's gone viral, you'll have shared it, go find it. He was talking about American sports and the technology and coverage there, not just for the improvement of the game and trying to improve fairness, but also the experience that fans get. The Premier League and the PGMOL and refereeing, it's just so far behind, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think this comes as a country, we're not really great at challenging things outside of football. They can raise petrol prices, they can do what they like, where you just look around the corner in France and they try to do similar things to things over there, and there's riots, yeah? Here, things come, we moan, we move, we accept. It goes up again, we moan, we move, we accept. It's just a general, and it's the same with the league. It's the same with the TV companies. Sky are probably looking at it like, we've upped the prices, tenfold in the last 20 years. The quality's probably gone a bit down in terms of our coverage, but guess what? We've got more subscribers than ever. We've got more money coming in than ever. No one's, people are complaining, but no one's acting on those complaints. There's definitely a lot of that there. Yeah. So, I don't know, in general, I don't know how we fix that problem, but I think the fans need to, we fans need to understand we've got a voice, especially the ones living within this country, because again, like the Super League stuff, you saw what can happen, the impact it can have across the world, because these owners were across the world at these times and they had to make quick decisions. So there's a lot of problems that really would require fans to unite in some way, shape or form. Now, how you do that's a whole other question before people ask me that, because that's a very difficult thing to do without people putting allegiances and biases aside and actually, thinking actually this is benefits both of us equally.
I felt, let's talk about the David Coote thing. I felt that, my word, did it take over social media. It was just such a massive storm. And rightly so, you got a Premier League referee who, for anyone who didn't see it, he's using the C word to describe Jurgen Klopp, even brings up his nationality. Yeah. He, on multiple occasions, uses the C word, actually. Then there's kind of a friend who's sort of egging it on and adding to the conversation. He talks about an experience, being a fourth official, I think, for one of his games. He then proceeds to say in a second video, this cannot go anywhere. Since then, the PGMOL have suspended him. An investigation's going on. Reports had come out that he, I think the exact wording was, vehemently denies that that's him in the video. Now it's that he doesn't remember him being a part of the video.
But accepts it was him.
Yeah, but accepts it was him. Yeah, sorry, thank you for adding that. What did you make when you saw the video? And I shouldn't laugh, it's not funny. It's kind of funny, but it's like, it's a serious problem.
Yeah.
It's just also like, it's hilarious, like, how did this happen? Because I almost find it hilarious. It's like, it's one thing, we'll talk about the subconscious biases and all that, and that's obviously important. How are you letting someone film you?
And the guy's zooming into your face as well. He's just there zooming in.
He's looking down the camera. Like, it'd be what... If you had an opinion on Jurgen Klopp, and he's in a club talking to someone, maybe a mate, and someone's put a camera and he's not really noticed that he's saying it. Like, Ken, questions will be brought up about maybe subconscious bias, what we need to do to improve that. But someone is kind of allowed an opinion on someone else, right? But it's the fact that he delivered it in that way that makes you question as well, like, wow, these are some seriously strong opinions.
Yeah.
How does that affect things? But also just to look down the lens of the camera.
Yeah.
It was all but 4K and give those opinions. I mean, it's crazy to me.
He was off his face, number one.
Yes, I mean, he's also kind of confirmed that, hasn't he, by saying, I don't remember.
He didn't need to confirm that. His eyes confirmed it. His movements confirmed it in that video. And what he said confirmed it, because it is outrageous. It's funny because how outrageous it is to hear that. And how it falls in line with, what we've been seeing over the last 2 years and some of the questions we have. Like, how do you bring in these referees? How do you vet them? How do you trust completely that they are, they are without bias? They are without an allegiance. How do you, at least tell us this? So we don't, this is why it's like a cartel. We don't know anything. They're just supported. Now there's Ref Watch, so they're even their own entity in terms of, I'm sure they don't.
Personalities.
I'm sure Ref Watch doesn't want to lose their contract on TV. So why would they want less controversy? I mean, this Coots thing, I'm glad it's come about. I'm glad it's come about because, as much as he calls Klopp the C word, many might call him the same word after seeing that and knowing that he's been in a position to influence the beautiful game. I know the beautiful game's been tainted by money now, and it's more the money game than the beautiful game. But it is still.
And many people it's a beautiful game with many ugly faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the PGMOL in the last few years in terms of how they've conducted this transition into VAR as well. Not only the accountability, in their own decision making and whatnot, it's the rule making behind the scenes and so on. So it's a big pile of shit at the moment. And this video kind of just, is the icing on the pile of shit.
Well, some people have said, let's look at both sides. Some people have said, look, it's unprofessional and he's going to probably lose his job, but ultimately, so he's got an opinion, he gets abused all the time. So what, he's given a little bit back here and there.
But that's
is that the end of the world?
You see how I say, some of these referees have never kicked the ball in their life.
By the way, I'm just putting someone else. That's not my opinion. I just want people to know that. Yeah, I'm just putting that.
But you know how I say refs have never kicked the ball in their life. They don't know whether this contact warrants a foul or they might see something slow-mo, but because they've never been in that situation, they'll say it's a foul because there's a bit of contact. But come on, the beautiful game, it's not a foul. I think the same can be applied here. Go
on.
Like, if you have to have we're all different characters, right? And in this day and age, all characters are applauded. Fair, I get that, 100%. But certain characters fit certain job roles. And I think as a referee, you need to have a bit of a, rough skin. You've got to have a bit of toughness to you. Because obviously I've only played at a Saturday League, Sunday League level, at best. But referees get it there more than ever because there's no cameras. But I would never feel like this ref's holding a grudge later down the line because what happens on the pitch stays on the pitch.
Yeah.
And it can get very feisty. It can get face to face at that level. Mm-hmm. It doesn't get like that in this level. They're very much protected, but you're still feeling away. Why? Because Klopp said a few things to you about, and you're holding that in. Like, I feel like that also comes to play, but I also feel like that's a problem they probably find difficult to solve because how do you know someone's got that rough edge about them? How do you know someone's got that character that over the 90 minutes they can have these back and forth with certain individuals? They can feel like, hold on, you disrespected me. But then when you blow the final whistle...
But this is interesting, because I explored and I talked about yesterday this kind of subconscious bias that can come in. Let's say, and some Liverpool fans might be claiming this, that David Coote has had bad experiences with Jurgen Klopp and therefore maybe doesn't want to give Liverpool certain decisions because of it. I think that's really interesting because I totally understand why the nature of the language he used and how kind of visibly, genuinely quite... he doesn't like Jurgen Klopp, he made that very clear, right? I can understand why people would look at that and think that and go, there's clearly like... You're human. You can't surely be feeling level-headed if you feel this way about someone, about the decisions you're making for their team. But then what's interesting is, sometimes, and I'm only just putting the other side out there, sometimes it's actually your biggest critics you almost want the validation from sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your professional pride is, I might not like you, but I want to, at the end of this game, have done the best job possible as a referee. So I'm exploring both sides here. While the video is shocking for many reasons, mainly the language used, how much fear do you have about the subconscious bias side of things from the referee's perspective?
I mentioned it before with the vetting of how you get these refs in and how you can guarantee without shadow of a doubt that there isn't a bias there. And then you look at the population of referees and, not one from London. I probably get that considering if you're born and raised in London, you're going to have some sort of allegiance. But I feel like that's the same in many areas. Yeah. So why are they all segregated up north? Again, I'm not saying that favours up north teams because Liverpool I've seen, get done many times over the years. So there's questions there. There is a worry there. And this video confirms that worry. If he feels and says that behind the scenes, then what do others? Because as much as I'm mentioning character before, they also have to understand that they're very much protected. You're protected, you're paid, you're professionals now. So you've got to just let it go at 90 minutes because they're not allowed to, managers are not allowed to say anything about you after the match anyway.
It's a good point, actually. Managers,
but then here's where fans also come in because can you imagine, let's use us. You know how the online fan base is, how strong we are online in numbers, right? When referee decisions go wrong this season, you could imagine that referee at home after for the next 72 hours on Twitter, on socials, on these things, and seeing Arsenal fans rip them to shreds. Right or wrong, we've been right this season, but I'm saying right or wrong, they're probably looking at it like, these CUNTs, you know? And then it comes into play, but how do you fix that? Maybe foreign referees, but that doesn't eliminate all bias completely.
Well, foreign referees is a good, it doesn't.
Or you have VAR in Spain or in Portugal and France, and you still have the English refs. So then you get a challenge from someone that's not even, maybe that's the...
Actually, that's quite a good solution. I'll tell you my biggest, actually, I want to explore all that solutions towards the end of this video. But I'll tell you my biggest takeaway from all this, as much as, you know, everything else we've discussed, you know, the language used, the subconscious bias, all that absolutely is a concern of mine. My biggest concern was, and has been actually more recently, the professionalism of the PGMOL. I used to talk about incompetence. Basically, I think there's three ways to look at it. You can criticise them for their incompetence, you can criticise them for their professionalism, and then some people want to throw the word around corruption. Corruption is a very strong word, and it doesn't end, it's not in my discussion, for me, when it comes to the PGMOL. I mean, that's a really, really big thing. People in the comments might go, James, you're naive, you're ludicrous. And look, maybe I'll be proved that way in the future. But I look at incompetence, which I've spoken about many, many times. And more recently, I've really looked at professionalism. And one of the things I've noticed recently is about, I think it was mid-2023, or maybe earlier this year, I can't remember. Mike Dean did an interview. You'll remember it, when he said he was on VAR and Anthony Taylor had a tricky game, feisty game between Tottenham and Chelsea at the Bridge. And there was a hair pull on Cucurella. And basically, I'm paraphrasing, but I checked the quotes yesterday. Mike Dean went as far as to say, look, he'd had a tough game. He's my mate as well as a colleague. And I didn't want to sort of put him in a difficult situation to make another big decision. Mm-hmm. So I didn't advise he goes to VAR. That is so unbelievably unprofessional, in my opinion. Yeah. You've literally admitted that you've allowed your personal relationship with someone to affect how you're going to officiate a game. Mm-hmm. And this was no difficult 50-50 one. This was a clear and utter red card, a hair pull on Cucurella. I mean, it's as clear as you'll get, but didn't want to make that decision in that moment. When I then look at and I've called for accountability from refs, and I hoped that a show in which Howard Webb would explain refereeing decisions, a Twitter account where they would explain refereeing decisions, a ref watch where they would, you know, hold referees accountable to these. I hoped all these things would mean the better discussions are being had around officiating, but for me they're not. I hear excuses, I hear constant contradictions, I hear everything you need to hear for the fans not to be right, basically. Mm-hmm. But fans unanimously will go, do we want Declan Rice sent off for poking the ball away?
That's where it goes to the rule-making, though. And
then it goes to rule-making.
The bigger problem.
But I feel there's a real lack of professionalism in the PGMOL. I really, really do. From this kind of stardom thing they've got now. And look, I get it. The amount of abuse they get, the amount we talk about them, I understand why some of them want to do interviews and talk about, when you've retired, speak about the game or what it was like or what you've done. But I just don't, we shouldn't know. I feel like we shouldn't know referees' names. I know over the years you've talked about, who's the famous Italian one that everyone always loves?
Oh, Colina.
Right, so but I just feel like at the moment we shouldn't even really know who they are. We shouldn't really know who's refereeing our
times
game.
He was by far, he was the one known. I mean, there was, in terms of when I'm looking around Europe, still in the league, you'd still know the refs' names, but because of similar things, you
Trossard's brother. But if they're known, it's because they're great, not because. How often after a Champions League game or at a major tournament we talk about refereeing decisions? I feel like it's quite rare. Mm-hmm. Certainly not as often as it is in the Premier League.
Definitely not.
So for me, I'm looking at their professionalism now. I don't think they conduct themselves right. I'm really honest, I don't.
But even from this video alone, listen...
This video is another layer to that, isn't it?
You can say that there's an arrogance in the video. You can say, and that comes from a lack of accountability. If someone just allows you to do what you're going to do and pay you for it and protect you and you get comfortable. You can potentially get comfortable unless you have the inner fire burning or there is progression there. And I don't know what the progression is for them. Is it Howard Webb's job? Is the next step up? if there is a next step up. So that all comes into play as well. But it's not just referees that have, in my opinion, ruined the beautiful game. There's other things as well. You know how far I feel like football's fallen off. But with the referee stuff, I just think, hold on, in the last 5 years, 10 years, you've been made professionals. VAR came in to help. Instead, we're using VAR to manage games. It's just, no one, I don't remember ever in history someone saying, that ball was out, it was just on the line for a throw-in. I can't believe this. We need video assistant. It came from the Lampard Germany goal, and it came from moments like that where it's just, how did you miss that? But then since it's come in, we have shit refs. Then we have people making the rules. I don't know if these same refs are involved in making the rules, if it's Howard Webb, if it's another committee. The rules have become nonsensical, from handballs to kicking the ball away or wasting time. There's no common sense anymore. And they're protected to hell. Like, managers can't say nothing about them. Fair enough, then let the referees come out and explain themselves then. You can't just say managers can't speak, players can't speak about them, but refs, you don't have to speak. I'll speak for you if I need to. Makes no sense. You see things like the Trossard, the Declan Rice kicking the ball away and getting kicked straight through. And then you see the next, 10 hours after, the opinions of whatever that referee's name is on that channel. And he says, listen, I get it. But then you see the same incident in a championship. I think it was Henry Lansbury, the same incident. And the questions off the back of that incident, is it a red card for the person kicking straight through the man? Or then you have the one where it's Michael Oliver, Kovacic, you didn't want to ruin the game. But then you did.
Yeah, but you wanted to ruin that one.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm mentioning Arsenal one because I'm an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, of course.
I've started this video by saying it's a football problem. It is a football problem, and everyone can talk about their own things, but just know that it's not a laughing matter anymore. It hasn't been a laughing matter for a long time. And the fact that it hasn't been a laughing matter for a long time, but nothing's done about it, plays into these refs feeling like they're the Avengers. No one can touch us.
Yeah, and on professionalism as well. Because I think, captured in all that is some of the rule making, which, for the sake of clarity, they do also run the rules by Premier League clubs. It is worth saying. So I think if there's anything that people really hated, then they could bring it up. But I think you also don't really know how a rule's going to run.
But who signs it at Arsenal? Because again, if we're talking about football men, is it Stan, is it Josh, is it Tim Lewis, is it Vinay Venkatesham? Because I don't give a shit what these lot think about football rules.
It's a good point, yeah.
You wonder. Are you asking the manager?
I feel like they go and pitch to the players and the manager. I might be wrong. I feel like they pitch to the players and the staff, this is what we're bringing in. But also, I can so imagine, like, you're worrying about your fitness, you're worrying about your tactics, you're worrying about the next game. You're probably sitting there going, all right. Like, I mean, I'd be bored. I'd be bored shitless if the PGMOL knocked on my door and said, "We've got some new rules."
Every year, something.
It's just like, oh my word.
Minor
it's just
changes.
like, let's just have, okay. And also, no one's saying that we don't want yellow cards for kicking the ball away. We just want some bloody common sense applied to it. And if you're not going to apply common sense, then at least apply the lack of common sense consistently. So all of that for me comes under professionalism. I also feel, I don't know, they released audio last season of, I think they released lots of audio, but one of them was Man City scored a goal against Fulham, and they had a City player in offside position standing in front of Bernd Leno. And they head the ball, goes into the back of the net, and the minute it happened, you can hear on VAR, and they shut, because there must be 3, 4, 5 different voices, incredible.
Yeah.
From the referee to the 3 on VAR, whatever, you heard, right, potential offside, right, goal check, yeah, no, we've got that one, mate, yeah, okay, I think there's an off, yeah, no, I'm checking it, mate, I'm checking it, okay, was it off, or was it, yeah, I'm looking, and I just thought, this is nuts.
It's like the Grand National.
This is, honestly, I was like, this is chaos. One day of VAR hearing that, you should have known this can't run anymore. Like, this is not how we could possibly operate.
Yeah.
And you're right, what was that picture? I mean, I couldn't see it for sure, but the picture of fantasy football over.
Yeah.
It's like,
now people have argued that.
hey, by the way, the camera's there. It might zoom to us if there's something we've got to do. Don't have, next thing he's going to have the new fucking Pokemon game on his app. Like, what's...
And people argued that it might not be the fantasy game. It's the same colours, yeah, but it might be another page. It doesn't matter what page it is. Just do your job here.
The screen's there.
You lot are already under scrutiny for time now.
But all these things
they
come
have
up
the audacity and the arrogance and the ignorance to do things like that. It's because they are told, don't worry, we'll protect you. because that is the thing. We'll protect you. You don't need to worry about your mental health. You don't need to worry about, what people. We're gonna sort that out for you. You ref, and then they feel like Teflon.
Let me, for the sake of balance, because I think there might be some referees at grassroots level here who have some thoughts, or maybe some more pro refs as well that have some thoughts. Abusing referees has become such a norm in the game. Like, from what people chant at grounds to what we have, at grassroots level. And I think at grassroots level it's fundamentally unacceptable. We understand that football fans, look, they give it to everyone, right? We'll have chants about Postecoglou, we'll have chants about referees, and some of them absolutely cross the line. Some of them are insulting, abusive, but there's kind of just like that barrier below, that level below, that is kind of more accepted in football. I guess my question is, with the obvious answer that at grassroots level it just should be absolutely unacceptable and something needs to be done to protect refs from that sense, is it just a part of the game what referees have to deal with from players, managers and fans? Should there be more done? Should there be clamping down on abuse, even if it is kind of stadium wide? Should they be doing more to kind of clamp down on that and making sure that, if we want better from them, then we also kind of maybe need to treat them better?
I wouldn't say it's a new thing, though. I mean, the referees are. It has been a historic chant. Yeah, that's been a historic chant, and
the referee's a banker.
I've been there. I've sang it. I'm not going to hide away from that. Do I think that's abuse? I mean, I guess it can be argued, yes. But on the pitch, I think it's very different. On the pitch, emotions are involved. So I struggle to know what the line is in this generation. I know what my line is. Like if a decision's made against me and I'm just angry and I just say effing prick out loud, it's not necessary. That to me is not abuse, but... I agree with you. So that's different. Sorry to cut in there. So that's different. I thought one of the worst decisions they ever gave was, I think Dalot was sent off at Anfield for Man United I think he protested once at a decision and then he protested again. And I just think United were in terrible form. They're away at Anfield, who were flying. Anfield's one of the most heated atmospheres you could possibly face, especially as a Man United player. They're seconds away from getting the result. The bloke wasn't on a card, so he's not even kind of thinking, well, I need to be careful. But you felt the need that he, A, crossed the line, which felt harsh, but B, did it twice. Yeah. And for me, that's a total lack of sympathy and understanding for what players are doing and for what players almost have to go through on the pitch as well. Yeah. So from that perspective, that for me is an abuse. Even if Dalot turned around and went, "Oh, you fucking wanker," or whatever, that is technically in words abuse, but it's also more just it's a venting and a frustration at what's just happened. Yeah. And I think referees need to be far more emotionally intelligent to understand those moments. For me, yeah. Because I'm not saying there's not a balance to be had from the other side as well, 100%. Yeah. But we can't talk about this side without them even entertaining a talk on their side. I'm sorry. Yeah. I've gone mad recently on watch-alongs with some of these refereeing decisions, and I can't believe, how these players must feel a certain way. I'm not just talking about Arsenal players here. I'm talking about ones that have historically had decisions go against them, weird ones at that. You must look at some of these referees and really just... Yeah. If I see you outside the stadium, mate, it's because it's just mad. When you can't do something about something you want to do something about. Trying not to encourage. But you're not. I'm not encouraging it. I'm not encouraging. We're talking about in depth, and it's the emotions that come out if you feel like you're knocking on a door and you're never being let in. You want to kick down that door one day. But we talk about the pressure on referees, and we talk about the frustration as fans, but Mikel Arteta, who's getting pelters right now, maybe from Arsenal fans or maybe from media for certain performances, must also be sitting there going, I'd have 4 more points if Rice and Trossard weren't sent off, which to this day I don't think are red cards. And I know football doesn't work that way. We still might have dropped points. You never know. But you also must feel so frustrated when you need the margins also to go your way, and maybe they haven't. Now, it happens to... I know it happens to every club. I know. But I'm just talking about how you must feel in your world, looking at it from your perspective as an Arsenal manager or an Arsenal player, or whoever it might be, Gary O'Neill, when he came out and said, look, I just wonder whether the big 6 clubs maybe just get a little bit more in their favour for certain reasons or whatever.
but dare you challenge it? And so there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people fans feel like they're getting a worsened experience. Managers and players feel like they're being really hard done by, and referees feel like they're probably being abused and unfairly treated. And it's just a whole massive mess. So whatever side you land on, I very much land on the side of the PGMOL. Quite frankly, are doing a shit job, and something needs to change. Wherever side you land on, something needs to be done here. It needs to be readdressed massively. And I think foreign referees play a big part. I think just mixing up the refereeing roster in general. I think transparency and, I think in certain leagues like rugby, where you can hear what the referee's doing, they look up at a massive screen that every fan can see. They look at it, they speak out loud, and they talk about what they're seeing. VAR, you can hear what they're explaining to them, and they give a decision. So at least then I've got a better judge of their competence. At least we're not asking questions around corruption or whatever, because there's a certain transparency. So I just think we can look at so many sports, technology-wise and transparency-wise, and take massive strides forwards in this game.
And I think use of ex-footballers in some way, shape or form would help.
Yeah, but then doesn't the bias thing creep in though?
Yeah, but then that's where you might go international, you might get, people that are not so, because you'd have the same problems with what we're talking about here. So you just have to be more meticulous with the way you source. Yeah,
that's true.
But there's just something about being part of the game that you cannot replicate from a book or from a lecture with a board in front of you. There's just something when you play it, especially at the level these ex-footballers have played it, where, of course, the bias thing is very hard to work around, but surely there must be a way, because it doesn't even seem like they're trying to work around the biases they've got with the ones they've got in charge now.
And I think there's a question for, my final point of all this, I think there's a question for media here too. I feel like you've got Ref Watch, but do I feel like things are really being tackled or pushed? When Michael Owen's on that show with, Howard Webb, does he have the list of sort of, comeback points that maybe we would have to be like, hold on, you said you didn't want to ruin that game, but he was happy to ruin this game. So I don't feel like in the mainstream media it's being talked about as much as it should be. I feel like fan channels are actually driving that conversation more than anybody. But then there's a final point I wanted to bring up. What was I just talking about? Sorry, it's completely slipped my mind. We were just talking about media and I can't remember. Yes, this was it, right. That the media as well, whilst not always kind of discussing it as much as I want, as well, there's like a feeding of certain narratives and conversations that maybe drive, whether it be engagement or a conversation they know people are going to tune into. And I know this has nothing to do with refereeing, but I was really warmed by the Italian journalist who asked Bukayo Saka that question in the press conference about, it was before we played Inter Milan away, and the Italian journalist said you've had an amazing few years, your development has been one of the best I've ever seen. You obviously had that big moment at the Euros. How have you recovered from that? How was that journey? And I just think, who's asking those questions?
Yes,
and I just feel like there's just better conversations in football to be had. The PGMOL are part of it, and they're not. And it frustrates me.
Yeah, that's a whole other problem, that area. There's a lot of different departments that are a problem in football.
Yeah.
Because the questions are never, even with Arteta, someone ask him, does he still feel like we've done enough in the transfer window? Just once, ask him, because I just want to know what he thinks. But that's going off subject. That's why I'm saying that
Amorim got just, I was about to say the word harass, but just relentless questioning about answering a question in English.
Yeah.
It's like,
is this what
they've told you can't?
Is this your
ask it in English. He'll answer in Lisbon. He'll answer in Portuguese, and he probably was in Lisbon. And you might still get a good answer. Do the work to translate it.
No, you're right. They were stunned.
I'm just so lost to this all. So anyway, we talked about a lot of different things there, but at the heart of it, the PGMOL is professionalism and the way they conduct themselves. And the way they want to operate in the game is of massive concern to me. Solutions, I don't know. Let us know in the comment section below, people. We're going to round off the video here. But really, it's a case of, next time you're an Arsenal fan and Man United have a scandalous decision to go against them, maybe don't laugh about it. Maybe actually, I don't know, football, the banter's part of it. I know, I totally get it.
I think it's got to start with us, man. I think if we create enough noise, mainstream media like Sky and TNT, they'll look at it and be like, all right, we'll get a lot of views if we potentially put some ex-players and some referees in a room together and made an hour Monday night debate out of it or something. So I think it genuinely starts with us, even with the banter stuff. Maybe people like Rio Ferdinand would focus on shit referees instead of mocking Saka with Chiellini and all of that and joining in with the banter. Maybe people like this would, like, you know, with a lot more weight than any one of us in this side of things, we'll start focusing on the thing. Because it's not an endless war, but it's not one that we've even begun. We're just letting them do what they want to do. If we can actually go in and help change something for the better, it's something we hopefully don't need to talk about again. Or just scrap VAR and go back to how it was, where human error is acceptable. He didn't see it. He wasn't quick enough on the mark. Fair enough. But since VAR has come in and all of that, it's completely outrageous that things have got worse.
Yeah, totally and utterly agree. Turkish, a big thank you, man. Behind the cameras. PGMOL special. But yeah, everyone, let us know your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. Try to explore the topic, not just what David Coote did and why it's so bad, but like the bigger discussion points around it all and conversations around the running of the game that we kind of want to see improved. Yes, Arsenal need to improve too. None of this changes the fact that Arsenal have been poor and Arsenal need to get better. There is an In Focus coming out, it might even be out already in fact, where I try to explore what Arsenal's best 11 is, how we can build some momentum, how Arsenal can try and build on what's been a really poor patch, but maybe can build some momentum and see where we are in the coming weeks and months. Bar's Premier League show's out. They discussed the David Coote stuff in more detail, as well as the title race and on Forever Arsenal. We very much delved into the title race, so go check that out too. Everyone, big thanks for joining. We'll catch you very soon.